One of the things that I consistently say on this channel is that whenever people on the right get together and talk, one of the things that it is that they depend on so heavily is the spreading of misinformation and disinformation, because they know that their audience aren't going to go and do their own research. In this clip, we're going to see the disgraced former Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Lizz Truss, the former Prime Minister of the country that I am from, that I had lived under when she was in charge. We're going to see her sit down, well, not even sit down, have an interview with Katie Pavlich of News Nation, a MAGA sycophant, and just repeatedly tell lies and spread BS. But we know that the majority of it isn't true. But I want you to stick to the very end, because I'm going to give you actual data and actual her record highlighting how she is the most unqualified individual to speak about anything when it comes to do with things that go on in the world. As usual, let's watch the clip in full. I'm going to give you guys my thoughts, my commentary, my perspective towards the end. Let's get into it.
Thank you very much for being here. It's great to see you. There's a lot going on in the world. We know the special relationship between the U.S. and the U.K. has lasted through many changes and many challenges, both globally and within our countries. But amid efforts to take out the Iranian threat, it seems that Prime Minister Keir Starmer, British Prime Minister, has created a pretty significant rift with the U.S. What do you think about the actions he's taken during this period of time, and why is he being so antagonistic?
Well, the fundamental issue Keir Starmer has is he is dithering over the strikes on Iran because he is trying to appease some of the sentiment in parts of the Muslim community in Britain. And he's been losing by-elections to the Green Party, who are even more Islamist in their approach. And he has been trying to play both sides, essentially. And what has happened is he's ended up in a position where Britain has not been acting with its most important ally. And we've also not been taking proactive action to deal with the Iranian regime. That isn't just a threat to America, it's a massive threat to Britain and Western Europe. So he is basically abrogating his national interest in favor of appeasing a particular group of voters, and I think that is appalling. And it reflects a wider part of the takeover of the British establishment.
Just to follow up on that, we've learned that the newly appointed Supreme Leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, which we are not sure if he's even alive. We've heard that he's injured. We haven't seen him since his father was taken out by the Israelis. We know that he owns a significant amount of property in London. Is that part of the calculation of the British government at this point, that the Iranian regime literally owns massive parts of the capital city?
The British government has been far too close to the Iranian regime. We saw civil servants from the Foreign Office attending events at the Iranian embassy, celebratory events, essentially. We've seen the attitude taken by officials in our government, being pro or certainly not anti-Iran, not being willing to prescribe the IRGC, pushing very hard when President Biden was in power for a nuclear deal rather than putting on sanctions. It's more that the system itself has been infected with this particular worldview. It's an anti-Israel worldview. It's not pro-West worldview, and it is extremely concerning and worrying. I want to say, though, to the audience that this is not any way a reflection of what the average British person thinks. The average British person is pro-Israel, very concerned about the development of anti-Semitism, and also very pro the United States. So what we have is we have an elite in our country that does not reflect the position of the average British citizen.
Switching gears a little bit, it's somewhat in the same vein of topic, but earlier this week there were a number of Hutsala ambulances in the Golders Green neighborhood of London torched in an anti-Semitic arson attack. An IRGC group, proxy group, claimed credit for it. A local councillor called it not surprising. We're seeing these escalating attacks in the UK. We're also seeing them in the United States and all over Europe. One of the top signs of decaying societies is giving into this type of anti-Semitism. What is the response coming from current leadership, and is it adequate enough in the UK?
Well, all that is coming from Keir Starmer is words. But this is at the same time that he is appeasing extreme Islamists. So he's trying to introduce a definition of Islamophobia so people can't criticize what's happening in our country, whether that's things like Sharia councils, whether it's things like the grooming gangs.
You wrote a book 2 years ago called 10 Years to Save the West. The clock is ticking on that. You warned about the corrosive effects of the global left. Setting aside the West as a whole, do you believe with the right leadership, the UK has a future and can be saved from the lack of leadership and bad partnerships, as you've described, that have been made by the likes of Keir Starmer?
I do believe it can be turned around. I have faith in the British people. They voted for Brexit. They voted for independence. They voted for sovereignty. They don't want what is happening to our country. What we need, though, is we need the kind of conservative infrastructure that you have in the United States. That's why I'm here at the CPAC conference, to look at how were these networks and institutions built.
Switching gears a little bit, you were the last prime minister to meet with Queen Elizabeth before she passed away. A lot has happened since then. We wanted to ask you about what she may think of what has happened with her son, Andrew, and the issues that they've had with stripping his titles, and the way that has worked out since she passed on.
Well, we still miss the late Queen. She was a monumental figure in our country and 70 years on the throne. So she is greatly missed by the British people. I think the decisions taken around Andrew are the right decisions, but ultimately, we are a constitutional monarchy that has served us well for many years, and that's the way I think we should continue. And the thing about the Queen, and in my last meeting with her, even though she was very ill, she still wanted to stand up and greet me properly and do her duty. But she would always do what her duty was to the country. That was her priority, and I'm sure if she was still around now, that's exactly what she would do now.
What is your view of King Charles' upcoming trip to the United States to meet with President Trump?
Well, I think it's very good that he's visiting the United States of America. Obviously, 250 years since independence. On one hand, we're sad because that was the moment at which you guys decided to leave us. But on the other hand, it has been a huge success as a country. And I think it's only right that our monarch visits at this really important time for the US.
Yeah, as a daughter of the American Revolution, I think we've been through some things, but we can also get over them. Finally, can't let you leave without asking about this. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are reportedly having financial issues in Los Angeles. There's been talk about them going back to the UK, but is there a path for them, given everything that has happened with the statements that they have made about the royal family, the dysfunction, to get back not just to England, but into the royal family?
Well, that's really a matter for the King and the other members of the royal family. But as far as I'm concerned, you're very welcome to keep them in California.
All right. Liz Truss, former Prime Minister of the United States.
Liz Truss is an absolute embarrassment. She's a muppet. She's a clown. She's the worst Prime Minister that we have ever had in the United Kingdom. She is the worst of the worst. Now, listen, I've got a lot of things that I want to get off my chest here, so please stick with me. Stick with me. Let me just tell you guys, in her 45 days, the shortest serving Prime Minister in UK history, in her 45 days, these are some of the most egregious, ridiculous things that she managed to do that basically meant a lettuce ended up lasting longer than she did. She announced £45 billion pounds in unfunded tax cuts with no economic assessment whatsoever. She scrapped the planned corporations' tax rises, and she cut the top rate of income tax for the wealthy individuals, which was later reversed. As a result of these stupid decisions that it is that she made, all once again within her 45 days of being the shortest serving Prime Minister, the pound crashed to near record lows against the dollar. Mortgage rates spiked and hundreds of deals were pulled overnight. Pension funds nearly collapsed, and the Bank of England had to step in with an emergency £65 billion payout, and the IMF publicly told the UK to reverse its own policies, deeply embarrassing her. And as a result of that, she ended up sacking her own chancellor after 38 days, then reversed nearly everything he'd done, and then she ended up resigning after just 45 days. that is the shortest serving prime minister in history. Now, what's the reason why she keeps on going over to America to try and build her brand there? Because she knows she can't do anything here in the UK. She's a national embarrassment. She's made fun of whenever she goes anywhere and speaks in the UK. Literally, go on YouTube, type in Lizz Truss, then type in mocking. Type in those two things together and you will see she is an embarrassment. She gets laughed at in this country. She tanks the pound, wrecked the mortgage market. She nearly crashed pension funds. She got told off by the IMF. She fired her own chancellor and she abandoned her entire agenda and then quit, all within 45 days. And a lettuce outlasted her. Once again, go on Google, type in Lizz Truss, then type in lettuce. Now, let me actually go against some of the things that it is that she said, because she went on there, and I always say the right are an echo chamber. They like to tell lies because they know that their audience aren't going to fact check it. Here's some actual proof when it comes to how it is that Brits are actually thinking in terms of their thoughts on Israel and the US. 59% of Brits oppose the US-Israeli strikes in Iran. This is actual polling that it is that I'm going to give you, okay? Only 25% of the UK support them. 56% of the British public oppose sending British troops to support the US and Israel. Only 16% support it. 84% of the Brits are concerned about the conflict's impact on fuel and energy prices. The only party that have majority support towards the strikes are Reform, the far-right party that is led by who? Nigel Farage, who is a Donald Trump bootlicker and an ass kisser. Understand, the things that Lizz Truss is saying, she's lying. None of it is based on factual evidence that she actually has. And that's the truth. Now, even the points that she tried to make, she's jumping on the Islamophobic bandwagon because she knows that, especially in the United States, that is how you're going to get in good with the right. This is the real reason as to why Keir Starmer did not join in with the strikes with Iran. 70% of voters in the UK oppose our involvement in the US offensive conflict with Iran. 59% of Brits oppose or strongly oppose the US-Israeli strikes within Iran. Okay? That's factual data that it is that I'm giving you. I'm not giving you any opinions. Now, lastly, she said that UK voted for Brexit. We're so big on sovereignty. Correct. They actually did. Do you know why? Because they were misled by people that are on the right, like Lizz Truss, predominantly by who? Reform UK's leader, Nigel Farage. This is polling and data right now on how Brits feel about Brexit. 56% of Brits now say that Brexit was wrong. 64% of Brits would suggest that if 64% of Brits would suggest that if it was redone again today, Brexit was redone, 64% of the UK would remain. 64%. On the question of, is Brexit a failure? 61% of Brits say yes, it was a failure. Understand, these people just say all of these things because they know what it is that's going to tickle people's fancy. She knows that when she goes on News Nation, which is a news organization that leads heavily to the right, she knows what's going to get people wanting to be interested in what it is that she does and what she brings to the table. But Lizz Truss brings nothing to the table. She had the opportunity. She had the opportunity to lead the country. But funny, she sits there and bashes what Keir Starmer does. But guess what? Keir Starmer didn't last only 45 days. Lizz Truss did. You could probably tell by this video I'm very passionate because she really, really rattles me because this interview was just so embarrassing. Now, I've been thinking to myself, why is Katie Pavlich so pro-war with Iran? Why is she so much in favor of Donald Trump? And I thought it was just because of the fact that she's MAGA. But then I did a little bit more digging. What does it turn out? Katie Pavlich is married to an individual called Gabriel Friedson. He's the director of international emergency management. He's also a global ambassador for Israel's United Hatzalah. Okay? Israel United Hatzalah. She's married to someone who at one point was a part of the IDF. That makes sense. What is she so pro what the US is doing within Iran? Honestly, this was a car crash interview simply because of the fact that Lizz Truss spread so many lies. Katie Pavlich didn't do her job as a journalist and push back. She just let her speak the lies. But it's no surprise the right is an echo chamber, and this is what echo chambers do. Let me know your guys' thoughts on this ridiculous interview. Absolutely ridiculous interview in the comment section below. And while you guys are down there, do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button, hit subscribe, hype up the video, and please let me know your guys' thoughts. Am I thinking about things too wrong? Am I getting a bit too rattled? Let me know your guys' thoughts down in the comment section below. I appreciate you guys, and I'll see you guys in the next clip.